So my next guest of Spotlight Ukraine is the expert on U.S. foreign policy, Asia-Pacific security, U.S.-China military security, and Taiwan's defense, Mr. Liang-Chih Evans Chen. Hello and welcome to Spotlight Ukraine.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. So, some analysts claim that Lukashenko and Mr. Xi signed a package of 16 documents that could help recurvement the sanctions against Russia by channeling Chinese aid to the Russian Federation through Belarus. Do you think that China will take such a step against the West?
I think so. That's true. Well, the Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko just went to Beijing to visit Xi Jinping on March 1st. And I think that's a strong signal to see, Russia, Belarus, and China, these three parts, they are trying to stand together. So I think we also can look at, the meetings in Munich, Germany, in middle of February this year. And at that meeting, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken of the United States, just, stressed that, China, you cannot supply any kind of military assistance to Russia. If you do that, you will encounter a very, very heavy, outcome by doing that. So I think the U.S. already has kind of intelligence to see China, Belarus, these two important strategic allies of Russia are trying to stay together and closer to help Moscow to recover or to re-attack Ukraine in the battlefield. So I'm pretty sure that definitely China is still standing aside of the position against U.S.-led democratic alliance in the war of Russia and the Ukraine. So definitely, I think China is, redeveloping, reorganizing its policy toward the situation.
So once again, let me clear it out. So you think that Belarus is going to be a new hub for China's help through Minsk to Moscow. Am I right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, and now let's talk a bit about the peace plan. So China presented the so-called peace plan to end the war in Ukraine, and it was approved in Moscow and Belarus, but not in the civilized world. Why did Beijing, after a year of war, decide to take the initiative, and who will listen to China and their so-called the peace plan?
Yeah, well, I think China is always learning to look at the situations in the battlefield in Ukraine. So let's, go back to the 1 year ago. I think, well, just right before, the start of the war, Putin just went to visit Xi in Beijing, and they, announced unlimited, no limit partnerships just right before the start of the war. So that shows that kind of, very strong relationships between Moscow and Beijing. But after the beginning of the war, it seems that, Moscow cannot do everything, cannot move very quickly. So I think China learns to, be hesitative to, the war in Ukraine. So I think Beijing is always learning. And at this moment, I think Well, Beijing definitely can figure out that Moscow cannot control, cannot progress too much, you know, over the war. So probably it would be much better to settle a line to stop the war. So I think that would be much better, to Beijing. So Xi Jinping or the CCP just announced that okay, a peaceful or a peace settlement for two sides of Ukraine and Russia. But on the other hand, I think Beijing is still trying to promote any kind of assistance for Moscow, and also try to help Putin can make a progress on the battlefield. And I also believe that Putin also requests more assistance from either Belarus or China. So Beijing and Belarus, they try to stay together and discuss or rediscuss any kind of their assistance they can provide to Russia.
Yeah, but we've already mentioned the peaceful plan presented by China, and Russia and China call on Ukraine to sit down at the negotiating table and come to terms with the new territorial realities. In the event that Ukraine wins this war, are negotiations with the Kremlin necessary at all? And will there be someone to talk to at all?
That's very interesting. Definitely, I think Beijing is calculating that, well, if, Ukraine wins the war, definitely let's still have to, conduct maybe a series of negotiations. So negotiation is still one option for Beijing. And then Beijing can announce its, any kind of contribution or devotes, China can make to promote a peaceful agreement between two sides. So Beijing will still, gain something or gain kind of, contribution to the peace. So actually, I think, announcement of a peace agreement or settlement at this moment, to encourage or to initiate asking two sides, to go on the negotiation table. That would be still beneficial to Beijing.
Yeah, I see. Thank you. And my last question, I ask every guest in Spotlight Ukraine. So, do you believe that this war can be ended till the end of 2023?
Well, it's hard to say. I think it's hard to say. Well, over the past probably around two months or 2 months and a half, we cannot see too much progress of the war on both sides. So it seems kind of dilemma of both sides. They just stick on the east battlefield of Ukraine. But now the winter is coming to end and spring is coming. So both sides, especially I think Russia, tried to reset the battle against Ukraine in the coming weeks. We also can see Russia definitely cannot make the idea or make the plan into practice over the past years, and they also need lots of assistance either from Belarus or China. So, well, in the same way, Ukraine also needs lots of military and economic assistance from the West. So it's hard to say. And I think the result will depend on the coming battles in spring seasons. I think that's quite critical to decide which side will win the war, or which side had much more advantage on the negotiation table.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being the guest of Spotlight Ukraine. Mr. Liang-Chih Chen from Taipei, Taiwan was the guest right now, and we continue. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Latest news, trends, and analytics on all about Ukraine. Like, share, and subscribe. Any questions, proposals, and comments, contact us via email.